Hello, hello, and welcome to Redefining the Significance of You, Time for You, by You, because of You. My name is Denise Drinkwalter, and I am a midlife renewal coach supporting women worldwide to lean into and realize the importance of you. This channel aims to provide you, the viewer, with some takeaways that will help you shift, change, reevaluate, and or become more aware of what is possible. We have a variety of guests sharing life experiences that have helped them become the amazing human beings that they are today. Every one of us, sometime in our lives, have had that infamous free time when we frequently feel guilty, embarrassed, or maybe even just wrong for taking out time for ourselves. Well, we are here to change that, to support you and show you what is possible when you take the time for you, by you, because of you. It is an absolute privilege and an honor to introduce Jeff Patterson to our show today. With 36 years of training and 30 years of teaching, Jeff has dedicated his life to the transformative power of the meditative arts. His passion has touched the lives of over 26,000 students through his academy, along with countless others online. Through his work, he has witnessed firsthand the profound impact that these practices have, helping individuals manage stress, enhance physical, mental, and emotional well being, boost creativity, and elevate overall performance. Jeff's commitment to guiding others on their journey of self discovery and growth is truly inspiring. We are absolutely thrilled to have him here to share his wisdom and experience. Welcome to our show today, Jeff. It's great to have you here.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
Dedicating over 30 years. Tell us how your journey even began 36 years ago. Can you give us your story?
Yeah, I was introduced to the meditative arts in a bit of a roundabout way, in that I was a pretty young guy. I wasn't interested in meditation at all, or even thought that was a direction that I wanted to go. And I was very much into Western boxing. And
Okay.
I had a boxing coach back then that told me if I wanted to be a good boxer, I should start doing meditation and Tai Chi. And at the time, I remember thinking that Tai Chi was for older people in the park, and thinking, how is this going to help me be a better fighter? But I had a lot of respect for him, and I followed that path and I took it on. And not only has it changed my life in so many different ways along the way, I've seen it influence thousands of people through the years. I've been teaching for over 30 years, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life to take on the practice. And that's what's motivated me to really try to get this message out there and help influence as many people as I can to take on the practice.
It's funny, as soon as you said Tai Chi in the park, I'm sure anybody who's listening is like, I know what he's talking about. Because that, isn't it funny how what we assume this is who it's for, it's not for us.
Yes.
Did did you waver in the beginning in terms of, yes, it was something you were going to explore because somebody that you look up to and respected deeply shared that with you, but was it a journey that had its ups and downs, or did it just seem to unfold naturally for you?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was a challenge because I was doing it with the intent to get better at boxing. And I really wasn't putting my heart into the practice. I was just doing it because I told them that I would. And it took me about 6 or 7 months before I finally had the realization of what it was I was doing. And I had this kind of aha moment that really changed my trajectory and made it to where boxing started taking second seat to my meditation practice. And from that point on, it's always been something that I've, spent my whole life traveling around the world, training with teachers all over and just trying to improve my own knowledge so I can be a better teacher in the practice.
And you have a variety of skills. Like it's not just a meditative practice. Can you share more about all of the areas that you tap into?
Well, within a meditation practice, I think a lot of people get this narrow perspective that you're sitting and counting your breaths or whatever the intent is for that. And, meditation is so vast. There's so many different paths that you can follow. And I break down a meditation practice into kind of five main paths. There's the athletic approach, which teaches us how to be more in touch with our bodies, be more in tune, be more present so we can perform at a higher level. There's the therapeutic side of the practice that a lot of people turn to the meditative arts for to help with longevity and just maintaining a healthy body. Then there's the medical side of the practice, which all of Chinese medicine is based off of Qigong theory, which is one of the meditative arts. Then there's the philosophical side of the practice, which has always been a passion of mine because it really helps open up your perspective and see things from different angles and be more strategic in what you do. And then lastly, there's the spiritual side of the practice, or the self-reflective side, which is a very profound path to follow. And so as you come to the meditative arts, you might follow one or a combination of a couple of those paths. And there's different practices along the way that you can cultivate through movement practices like Tai Chi or Qigong or yoga. There's sitting practices, there's breathing strategies, there's standing meditations, walking meditations, philosophical concepts that we integrate. And so as you start to build an evolving life practice with these arts, it's easy to kind of cater to whatever your interests are.
I love that. I love the fact that it's an evolving practice. As you grow, you evolve your aspects that you're going to use based on where you are and what you're needing. Would that be somewhat accurate?
Yeah. And as you start to get to where you're having deeper realizations of things, you're able to get into more complex things that are more involved with, like the energetic expression and circulations in the body and different philosophical concepts. And so, one of the things that I've always really enjoyed about the meditative arts is oftentimes I'll have a teacher that will tell me something and I'll think that, I understand, it makes a lot of sense. But then 5 years later, I'll realize that, that's what he was really trying to tell me. And, some of these lessons, they don't come right away. They come through that practice and that time of reflection. And so it's always kind of fun to have those realizations when they pop up.
Absolutely. Something that's coming up for me that I think the audience, I mean, would also concur with, that meditation is definitely out there. There's apps, there's lots of ways you can access meditation. What you're talking about, I love that you're talking about meditative arts. To me, that sounds wider and deeper than a practice of meditation. Is there a difference in terms of I meditate or meditative arts?
Well, I think everybody has their own perspective and their own view.
Yeah.
However, yes, I think a lot of people do have a very narrow view of the meditative path. And, I, through teaching for over 30 years, I've heard all kinds of things from people and how their practice goes along. And, one of the biggest challenges that I've come up with is helping people realize the value of the practice and being consistent in diving into this so they really see the benefits of what it has to offer. And so through the years, I've come up with three considerations that I like people to spend a little bit of time with, that I find that if they do, their chances of being successful with the practice seem to increase quite a bit. And the first one is thinking about what is it that's drawing you to the practice? Do you want to stay healthier into your later years to watch your grandkids grow up? Or maybe you're dealing with a stress disorder and you have anxiety or panic attacks, or maybe you're an athlete and you want to improve your performance. Whatever that is for you, and then once you have that good idea and understanding of that, think about maybe 10 or 20 things that will positively change in your life by accomplishing that goal. And then flip the coin and think about 10 or 20 negative things that will negatively change if you don't accomplish that, because we all need this fuel and this ability to kind of have a reason and a purpose to do the practice. And without it, we're going to be flaky and it's not going to stick. And so having that good, strong why is real important. The next thing is a very important concept with any meditation practice, and it's the idea of understanding the importance of consistency. And there's this ancient Chinese story that really illustrates this fact well, and it's about this old stonecutter who was very well known. He created these beautiful sculptures of animals and landscapes, and his stuff was so unique and so detailed that anybody that saw it knew it came from him. And because he was so well known, he'd have people from all across the land come and train with him and stay with him for a few years at a time and study what he was doing. Well, every morning, the stonecutter, he would go out to the river and meditate first thing in the morning. And one morning after his meditation session, he's walking along the river and he has this profound vision of this huge 6-foot tall jade mystical Chinese dragon. And he's so taken by this vision that he decides this is going to be his next project. And so he spends the next few months traveling all over China looking for this perfect stone to have this creation come to life. And he finally finds it. He takes it back to his place and he spends the next few days just studying the rock and trying to feel the energy and see how this dragon is going to come to life in the stone. When he begins working on the dragon, he carefully places his chisel in one specific place and starts tapping away with his hammer, hundreds, if not thousands of times a day, every day, same thing, same place, and nothing was changing. A few days roll by and still no change. A few more days roll by, and one of his apprentices started thinking, man, is he doing the right thing? Should he try something else? They started second guessing him a little bit. And, a few more days went by. He's still at it thousands of times a day. And then finally, this big section breaks off the backside of the stone and creates this nice, smooth, slightly curved line that's soon to be part of the dragon's back. And one of his apprentices who was watching said, how did you know that that strike was going to break the stone? And he said, it wasn't that strike that broke the stone. It was the thousands of strikes before it that broke the stone. And with a bit of a discouraged look on his face, the apprentice said, but I've been watching you and there was no change, not even a scratch or a mark in the rock. Why keep doing the same thing? And the stonecutter got down on one knee and he felt the smooth line that he just created. And he said, each strike was not wasted. Even though you could not see what was happening with the naked eye, the rock was changing beneath the surface. And not only was the stone changing, but so was the one who wields the hammer. And the reason why I love this story is that it's so closely related to the meditative arts, in that we're doing these breathing techniques, we're practicing these movements, studying these philosophical concepts, and we don't always see the change happening day to day, but we're laying the foundation for us to benefit from these fruits for the rest of our life. And so having that idea of understanding that you have to be consistent with the practice is extremely important. And then the third and final consideration is you have to have a guide. You have to have somebody that's going to help point you in the right direction and show you how to navigate the waters of this practice, because I've been studying this for 36 years and I'm still just a student learning all the time. And if you think that you're going to be able to go onto YouTube or follow this app and really have any kind of depth in a meditation practice, you're going to waste a lot of time. And I've seen it firsthand where people come in here that have been self-taught and they've been studying for 15 years sometimes, and they're never past the surface of their understanding of the practice. And, life is short, your time is valuable. Having somebody in your corner to help point you in the right direction can save you a lot of time and help you find and discover a lot more benefits with the practice. So if you find your why, understand consistency, and have somebody helping point you down the right path, your chances of being successful are going to be greatly increased.
That's beautiful. I love everything you've just shared. Um, I would imagine that when people start with their why, as they evolve, do you notice any of your students that their why deepens or changes based on where they started to where they're as they continue to move?
Yes, for sure. And I think there's a few reasons for that. One is, we're always growing and maturing and making deeper levels of realization. But another thing, which I think is something that we're all guilty of and we get caught up in, is that in today's society, we've got our cell phones and distractions and all this stuff going on. It's so easy to get caught up walking through the day wearing a mask. We're trying to maybe prevent people from seeing what our true feelings are. Maybe we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or, we're being a little bit closed off with these barriers up. And we get so used to living like this that sometimes we go to look at ourselves in the mirror and we're still wearing that mask. And the meditative arts is something that helps us let those barriers down and really stay connected to who we truly are. And oftentimes, when we find that deeper connection of who we are and what's important to us, those whys do shift, but it just gives them a deeper meaning and more purpose as they do.
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Is there any particular story that lights you up about a student's journey that you could share with us so that we can see what is possible as people reach out to ask you to help guide them through their journey of the meditative arts?
Yeah, one of the first stories that always kind of pops in my head when people ask me this is about this gentleman named Bill who has been with me here at the academy now for 30 years. He
Mm,
came here back when he was in his early to mid 50s. He had a very high stress career. He was stiff as a 2x4. He had high blood pressure. He was thinking that he wanted to do sword fighting. And after a couple weeks and getting to know him a little bit, I kind of did what my boxing coach did to me, and that, Bill, it'd be really good if maybe we did some meditation and some Tai Chi. I think it'd be very helpful for you. And he took on the practice. And here we are 30 years later, he's still at the academy training. And, the great thing is watching his transformation, because after a fairly short amount of time, maybe 6 to 12 months, his whole physiology started
mhm.
shifting. He started letting go of that tension. His blood pressure went down. So many positive changes have evolved in his life. And that's why he's still here 30 years later. He's in his early to mid 80s right now. And he's still a pillar here at the academy and part of the family, and I've heard and seen hundreds of stories like that through the years. After teaching for 30 years, you come across quite a few people, and that's really what is so inspirational for me as a teacher and makes me so motivated to try to help spread the word of this practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that story. And I can only imagine how your bucket gets filled up when you get to witness that kind of deep transformation and living life to its fullest as a result of doing meditative arts to the depth and capacity. And I'm guessing that he continues to be in the academy because he's continuing to learn. There is no finish line to that work.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the things that I've always loved about it for myself is that I've spent tens of thousands of hours doing this and studying for well over 30 years, and I'm still learning all the time, and there's so much to this practice that, you never know it all. And
Yeah.
that's what keeps it fun and interesting.
One last question before we give you your time and space for the rest of the day, but Do you or have you, over the number of years that you've been working with your clients and seeing the world changing? You mentioned about, technology and cell phones and social media very briefly. Have you noticed changes, exterior changes that are impacting those who are coming and wanting to dive into meditative arts collectively? Or would you say there's any difference over time?
Well, I do think that people are a lot more open to the idea than they were
Mm,
30 years ago. Back
nice.
then it was a lot more of kind of a mystical maybe thing that people really didn't believe in. But
Yeah,
now there's been so many scientific studies and proof that these practices help not only with our mental stability, but our physical and emotional health that it's kind of undeniable that there's benefits for it. And so it definitely has evolved, I think.
I love that. That's an angle that I would not have thought of. I was thinking more along the lines of the pressure of the world coming down on people's shoulders and so going out, but I love what you just shared and I'm grateful we've had this conversation. Is there anything that you would love to share with the audience that we haven't tapped into? I know that's a big question. But if there's something, I loved your three components that are required in terms of this work, in terms of understanding your why and your consistency, and the guide is key. Is there anything else that you would just really love to give our audience as a nugget before we end our call today?
There's a lot of things we could talk about. However, one of the things that I think would be most helpful for you, if you have any kind of small desire to take on this practice,
Mm.
if you just take a little bit of time and really consider those three considerations I talked about earlier, and if you do this practice and you stick with it and you do say 20 minutes a day for a year and maybe integrate some active practices along the way, I guarantee you'll do this for the rest of your life and you'll see
Mhm.
so many benefits along the way that you'll stop looking at it like, hey, this is chore I got to do, or I said I was going to do this every day, and start looking at it like something you get to do and be excited about it, because it really will change everything you do. And it is an amazing practice. The Dalai Lama once said that everybody should meditate for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should meditate for an hour. And I love that saying, and that I truly believe that if everybody meditated a little bit every day, the world would be such a better place.
Mm. And you would be doing all of this for you, by you, because of you, which is exactly the reason why we have the show, is to show people the importance of putting yourself first. And the benefits far outreach just ourselves when we step into this work, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. In the show notes, there are ways for you to access and connect with Jeff. So we put those in the show notes. And I really appreciate your time and your energy and sharing your wisdom with us. It's been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for being with us today, Jeff.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you to those in the audience. If you have any questions, put the comments in the YouTube show and we will definitely get to answering them. And make sure you go and check Jeff out. He's a gift and it's been a real pleasure to have him on the show today. Thank you very much and we'll see you next week. Goodbye, everyone.